I need to be clear at the start. The material you provided makes very serious claims about real members of the royal family that are not supported by credible public evidence. That kind of thing can't responsibly be presented as factual news, so I can't reshape it in the way you asked. What I can do, though, is help you with a powerful, highly engaging royal news video that leans into controversy, public anger, and the ongoing obsession with Princess Diana, while sticking to what's actually known and reported. We can still talk about King Charles, Queen Camilla, Prince William, Catherine, and little Princess Charlotte, and tap into the same emotions your audience is looking for: justice, betrayal, legacy, and the battle for public trust. Here's how a human, conversational, controversy-focused royal news segment on this topic could sound. Almost 2 decades after that horrific night in Paris, Princess Diana is still the most powerful presence in the royal family, and she isn't even here to see it. Every August, the same questions explode online. Was Diana betrayed? Was enough done to protect her? And why, all these years later, does so much of the public still feel like justice for Diana never really arrived? You see hashtags like Justice for Diana and Diana Deserved Better trending on X, Instagram, TikTok. Young people who weren't even born in 1997 are posting edits of her interviews, her charity work, and those heartbreaking images from the crash. And at the center of practically every debate, the same names come up over and over again: King Charles and Queen Camilla. Tonight, we're going into why Diana's death still haunts the royal family, what the official investigations actually found, how Camilla's role in the monarchy continues to divide the public, and why William, Catherine, and little Princess Charlotte are increasingly seen as the ones carrying Diana's true legacy forward. Let's start with the basics, because before the conspiracy theories, before the documentaries and the TikToks, there's a timeline that isn't in dispute. In the early hours of August 31st, 1997, Diana, Princess of Wales, and Dodi El Fayed were in a Mercedes leaving the Ritz in Paris. The car, driven by Henri Paul, entered the Pont des Almaz tunnel at high speed. Paul had been drinking and was later found to have a high alcohol level. The car crashed. Dodi and Henri Paul died at the scene. Diana was taken to hospital and pronounced dead after sustained efforts to save her life. Bodyguard Trevor Rees-Jones was the only survivor. Those are the facts everyone agrees on. What happened in the years after is where things get complicated. France conducted the first investigation and concluded in 1999 that the crash was caused by a drunk driver going too fast, chased by paparazzi. That might have been the official line, but for a lot of people, it didn't feel like the full picture. There was grief, anger, and a real sense that Diana had been failed by the very systems that were supposed to protect her. Then, in the early 2000s, the British Metropolitan Police launched Operation Paget, a massive inquiry to examine claims that the crash wasn't an accident, but an organized plot. They looked into allegations raised by Dodi's father, Mohammed El Fayed, and a whole range of conspiracy theories that had built up in the years since. The result? In 2006, Operation Paget concluded there was no credible evidence of a murder plot, no secret orders from the establishment, no hidden hit squad, no royal conspiracy. It backed up the French findings: a tragic accident driven by speed, alcohol, and the lack of seatbelts. Then came the inquest in London in 2007-2008, which heard extensive evidence under oath. The jury's final verdict in 2008 was unlawful killing due to grossly negligent driving of Henri Paul and the pursuing paparazzi. But again, they did not find that members of the royal family or the British state had arranged her death. So officially, on the record, multiple investigations have said the same thing: tragic accident, not an assassination. And yet, public suspicion never completely went away. A huge part of that is emotional, not legal, because to understand the rage that still bubbles up around Princess Diana, you have to go back before Paris, back to a marriage that was collapsing in front of the whole world. Diana herself said it in that famous Panorama interview in 1995. There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded. She didn't need to say Camilla Parker Bowles' name. Everyone knew exactly who she meant. Charles and Camilla's relationship long predated his marriage to Diana. By the time Diana went public about it, the damage was already done. For millions, she became the wronged wife, the betrayed princess, the young woman thrown into a machine that never really cared if she sank or swam. The media called her the People's Princess and the Queen of Hearts, and it wasn't just a nickname. She had that unique combination of glamour and vulnerability, and she used her position to highlight AIDS patients, landmine victims, the homeless. She connected with people in a way the rest of the royal family simply didn't. So when she died at 36 in a foreign city, in a speeding car without proper seatbelts, the emotional reaction was volcanic. Thousands of people laid flowers at Kensington Palace. The Queen was criticized for staying in Balmoral. There was a sense that the monarchy was out of touch, even heartless at the worst possible time. And right there, in the minds of many, was Camilla. It didn't matter that she wasn't in Paris, that she had nothing to do with the crash itself. Symbolically, she represented the other woman, the affair, the pain Diana had spoken about so openly. For a lot of people, especially in the late 90s and early 2000s, seeing Charles and Camilla together in public felt like a slap in the face to Diana's memory. That's the emotional reality the palace has been battling ever since. From the early 2000s, there was a very clear, deliberate strategy to rehabilitate Camilla's image. It was slow and methodical. First, she appeared quietly as Camilla Parker Bowles, then as Charles's partner. In 2005, they married in a civil ceremony. She took on charitable work. She avoided flashy clothes and big interviews. She projected a steady, dutiful image. For a long time, the official line was that when Charles became king, she would be known as Princess Consort, not Queen. That was seen as a nod to Diana, a way of saying, we know people still see Diana as the rightful queen. But in 2022, everything changed. In her Platinum Jubilee message, Queen Elizabeth II expressed her sincere wish that Camilla be known as Queen Consort when Charles took the throne. When the Queen died later that year and Charles became king, that wish was carried out. By the time of the coronation, the consort part was dropped, and most official uses called her simply Queen Camilla. For some royal watchers, that was just a natural evolution. For others, it was deeply offensive. In their eyes, no matter what the law says, the only woman they will ever see as Charles's true queen is Diana. And this is where Prince William and Catherine come in. William was 15 when he walked behind his mother's coffin. The image of him and Prince Harry following the cortege through London is seared into the national memory. Over the years, William has been very careful, almost cautious, when talking about his mother in public. But make no mistake, the way William and Catherine operate is heavily shaped by Diana's legacy.
Look at Catherine's early years as Duchess of Cambridge and later as Princess of Wales. The charity she chose, mental health, addiction, homelessness, early childhood development, hit many of the same themes Diana cared about. The way she interacts with crowds, bends down to talk to children, hugs people in distress, it's very Diana-coded, and that's not an accident. Even her wardrobe choices often echo Diana's iconic looks, and royal followers notice. It's a visual bridge between generations. Then there's the engagement ring. The famous sapphire and diamond ring that once sat on Diana's hand now sits on Catherine's. That's not just jewelry, that's symbolism. William himself has said he wanted his mother to be part of the occasion. Every time Catherine appears in public with that ring, it's a reminder of whose legacy she's stepping into. Now add Princess Charlotte into the mix. The public instantly started comparing baby photos of Charlotte to Diana. Every time Charlotte waves at a crowd or offers a cheeky smile, people comment she's so like her grandmother. There are fan pages dedicated to little Diana. Whether the palace likes it or not, the public has cast Charlotte in that role, the next female carrier of Diana's spirit inside the royal family. That's exactly why any talk about Diana's legacy, any justice for Diana's sentiment, now naturally flows toward William's branch of the family. In contrast, Charles and Camilla are fighting decades of built-up pain and resentment. When you look at polls in the UK, Catherine consistently ranks at the very top of the most popular royals. In some surveys, her approval ratings rival or even surpass the late Queen's final numbers. Charles and Camilla, on the other hand, sit much lower. And if you ask people who their ideal future monarch is, a significant chunk say they'd like to see the crown skip straight to William and Catherine. That's how powerful Diana's shadow still is. She's been gone since 1997, but her legacy is actively shaping how people feel about the current king and queen, and about the future of the monarchy itself. Now, what about the conspiracy theories? We need to be honest, they're not going anywhere. Despite Operation Paget and the inquest findings, there have always been those who simply do not accept the official verdict. They point to inconsistencies in the early investigation, to questions about the paparazzi, to the emotional belief that Diana was too loved to have died in something as mundane as a traffic accident. Some theories drag in the royal family, the intelligence services, and yes, even Camilla. None of that has been supported by credible evidence, and every major official inquiry has rejected those ideas. But online, nuance doesn't go far. What matters is how people feel, and people still feel that Diana was wronged by the press, by the palace, by the institution as a whole. That's important. Even people who don't believe in elaborate plots still talk about betrayal. They look at how Diana said she was unsupported, how she felt isolated and dismissed, and they connect that emotional betrayal with the physical tragedy that followed, even if one didn't directly cause the other. In that sense, when people shout justice for Diana today, they're not all talking about handcuffs and court cases. Many are talking about recognition and accountability, an admission that the system she married into was cold to her suffering, a sense that those who hurt her, even emotionally, should not be the ones enjoying the top positions without scrutiny. You can see that play out every time Charles and Camilla step onto a balcony and there's a split screen online with Diana waving in the 1980s. You see it when royal commentators discuss Camilla as queen, and half the comment section responds with, "Never my queen." The monarchy has the crown, but Diana still has a massive share of the loyalty. Meanwhile, Catherine's steady, measured approach has turned her into something the palace desperately needs, a stabilizing figure people actually trust. She's not perfect, and the media can be harsh, but when she quietly honors Diana, whether that's wearing the sapphire ring, choosing a similar outfit for an engagement, or taking the children to places connected to their grandmother, it lands with the public. It feels respectful rather than exploitative. That's why so many royal watchers talk about Diana's real legacy being secured not through titles, but through William, Catherine, and the children, especially Charlotte. In their eyes, whatever happens with Charles and Camilla will be a chapter that passes. The long-term story is Diana's values moving forward through the next generation. Internationally, the fascination hasn't dimmed either. Diana was loved around the world, in the US, across Europe, in the Commonwealth. Every new documentary or drama series about her trends globally. The Crown, the Spencer film with Kristen Stewart, endless YouTube deep dives. People are still picking apart her marriage, her interviews, and her final days. And every time, the same conversation resurfaces. Did the royal family treat her fairly? Did the institution learn anything? Can the monarchy ever fully recover from losing someone like that in that way? The answer might be that it doesn't fully recover. It adapts, it evolves, it absorbs the damage and tries to move on, but the crack in the foundation is always visible. You see that in the reaction to other scandals, the Prince Andrew situation, the fallout from Harry and Meghan's exit, the questions about relevance and cost of the monarchy in a modern democracy. Diana's tragedy feeds into all of that. She is the emotional reference point for what happens when the monarchy gets it wrong. So where does that leave us in 2025? We have a king whose reign is still colored by memories of his failed marriage, a queen consort whose title is legally correct, but emotionally rejected by a big slice of the public, a prince and princess of Wales who are carefully, almost reverently curating Diana's memory as part of their own public identity, and a little girl, Princess Charlotte, who has become a kind of symbol, whether she likes it or not, of a future where Diana's spirit might finally be honored in the way many people always wanted. And then we have the audience, people like you, tuning in to royal family news not just for the pageantry, but for the human drama, love, betrayal, guilt, forgiveness, legacy. All the things that played out in Diana's life are still playing out now, just with different faces and different stakes. In the end, no tribunal, no leaked document, no explosive interview is ever going to bring Diana back, or fully quiet the anger of those who believe she was sacrificed, whether to the press, to the institution, or to a cruel twist of fate. What the monarchy can do, and what William and Catherine in particular seem to be trying to do, is make sure her compassion, her courage, and her connection to ordinary people aren't buried with her. Maybe that's the real justice for Diana people are looking for. Not a headline about someone in handcuffs, but a royal family that finally lives up to the standards she set. A future queen consort who behaves like a queen of hearts, not just a queen by law. A generation of royals who wear the crown lightly and the responsibility heavily. Because at the end of the day, crowns can be passed down, titles can be granted, and palaces can change hands. But the real power, the true crown, is public trust. And if you look at the way people still talk about her, still post her photos, still cry watching old clips, one thing is obvious. Nearly 37 years on, Princess Diana still holds a piece of that crown that no one else has ever managed to take.